Hi, I'm Willie with H5 Technology. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So, did I tell you that I got gigabit internet? I do. I have gigabit internet symmetrical now, and we signed up early. We put down a $50 deposit when they were getting ready to come through. And so now our price can never go beyond the $74.99 or $79.99 with the equipment rental. And I get 900 megabits plus when I do the speed test. So we're going to do a couple things. I've got videos in the hopper. So of course, tomorrow I'm going to be shooting more footage for the network expansion. I went today and I looked at a hotel, 73-room hotel invited me to give them a quote to update their Wi-Fi. I'm waiting on some things from the manager. I've shot a bunch of video for that, so we're going to do a quick overview on that. But what we are doing tonight is, if you recognize this, this is the EdgeRouter 4. What we're going to do is, I've had this on the channel before, but what we're going to do is we're going to hook this guy up. We're going to do a basic config to get it online. That's going to be the first video. We're going to walk through this now. And then in the next video, we are going to install PIA on here. And since I have gigabit internet, we are going to see what kind of speeds we can get out of OpenVPN and PIA on the EdgeRouter 4. How exciting is that? So what I'm going to do is, this may have a config on it. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to get it plugged in. I'm going to factory default it. I'll be right back. I'm going to explain step by step exactly how we're going to do our basic config and get this guy up and going. We'll be right back. Alright, so I factory defaulted this, and you can see right now that the light, it's a very pretty blue. I would call that, I don't know, the blue that reminds me of is if you remember growing up and you had the big glass Christmas lights, that blue. It's like I don't know, it's just an awesome blue. And when this thing turns white, then that means the router is ready to go. So what we're going to do, and it's just turned white, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take my PC connection, which is right here. So we're going to take my PC, and in this case this would be your PC. We're going to take our PCs, we're going to plug them into ETH0 when this comes out of the box. So ETH0, we're going to plug it in. Now what we're going to do, we're going to set the router in a safe location. Now we are going to put a static IP address on our computer, and we're going to log into the web interface for the very first time. Okay, so what I've done is I've opened my settings. This is Windows 10. You may have Windows 7. You'll have to navigate to the same place regardless of the operating system. Even if you're still running Windows 95, you're still going to have to open up that network adapter properties. So I've gone to Ethernet. I'm going to click Change Adapter Options. I'm going to right click on my Ethernet. I'm going to go to Properties. I'm going to double click on Internet Protocol version 4, TCP/IP/IPv4. Now, the EdgeRouter by default is going to have a 192.168.1.1 IP, and it is not going to hand out IP addresses, and that is going to be ETH0. The other interfaces do not have an IP, so you have to be in ETH0 to do this. So we just need to be inside of the Class C, which is a 255.255.255.0 subnet mask. So that actually gives us 254 usable IP addresses, and at some point we will talk about that. Actually, that's probably going to be something that's going to be included in the learning management system that we are working on right now. But right now what we're going to do is we're just going to do 192.168.1.2. When we hit tab, it fills in the Class C subnet mask. We don't care about anything else because at this moment we are not worried about getting online. What we're going to do is we're going to click OK. We're going to click OK again. I'm going to leave this open so that because we're going to be going back in there and making our computer DHCP here in just a few minutes. So I'm going to minimize those. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a command prompt, and I should be able to ping 192.168.1.1. I can. So I'm successfully now connected to the router. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open another tab here, and we're going to open the interface of the EdgeRouter. All right, so in the new tab, I simply type in 192.168.1.1. It'll redirect us to HTTPS, and we get this notification that is not secure. And the reason that we get that notification is because it is a self-signed SSL certificate. We are going to add an exception. We're going to uncheck permanently. We're going to hit confirm. Now, the default username and password is UBNT. Remember, do not use that in production. All right, so now what we're going to talk about is the absolute easiest way to get your EdgeRouter up and going. You need to know a couple things. You need to know what you want your LAN address to be and what your WAN address is going to be. And we're going to walk through that here in a second, but you're going to be prompted with this basic setup question. It says, router is in default config. Do you want to start with the basic setup wizard? And we're going to say yes, because this is the quickest, easiest way to get us up and going. So we're going to say yes. It's going to come up, and by default, it is going to say that ETH0 is going to be your internet port. So it can either be, when you use the wizard, it can either be ETH0, it can be the SFP port. We are going to choose ETH0. Now, like, I don't have a static IP address, so DHCP is what I'm going to choose. Now, with DHCP, you will get an IP address, you'll get a subnet mask, you'll get a gateway, you'll get DNS servers, sometimes you'll get an NTP server. Not always, but you will at least get IP, subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS servers. Why am I bringing the DNS servers up in this? Because by default, the way we're going to set this up, and you're going to see this, the EdgeRouter will grab those and use those to resolve DNS queries for the clients inside. So we'll take a look at that here in just a second. All right, we have the option to do a static IP. If you have a static IP address, your provider is going to give you this information, and you're simply going to fill it in. So you would put your IP address here with the subnet mask here, and most providers are going to give you the full subnet mask. They're not going to give you the CIDR notation or the slash notation. So for like our Class C, the 255.255.255.0, the CIDR notation for that is a /24, because that's how many bits are reserved for the network out of 32 bits available in an IP version 4 IP address. If you have a PPPoE connection, which I don't, around here they're not so common unless you've got DSL, like AT&T DSL. I know they're huge in Australia and in some foreign countries. They do exist in the States. I do have a couple customers with those, mostly in California. But you would put in an account name that your ISP is giving you and a password, and then they will either assign a DHCP or a static address based on the credentials. So this is really popular with WISPs as well. But for us, in this demonstration, I'm just going to use DHCP. Now, the default firewall on an EdgeRouter is fantastic. The rules are awesome. They totally protect your inside network from unwanted intrusions, meaning that unless you are creating that outbound connection first, nothing can just get an unsolicited inbound connection. In fact, I have EdgeRouters out there running this default firewall, and they pass PCI compliance scans every quarter. So I have a lot of confidence. I have a very high confidence level at this point in the default firewall. All right, so here we have the option to bridge the ports. Now, with the EdgeRouter 4, EdgeRouter 6, these things have enough horsepower that I don't know how much of a hit, since we're bridging in the software, I don't know how much of a performance hit we're going to take, because with my other EdgeRouter 4, that's my daily driver, I'm still getting over 900 megabits download, and I have those interfaces bridged. So if you want the ETH1 and ETH2, so ETH1, ETH2, to act as one interface, or as one network, and then even the SFP port, we can add that in later, you can bridge these, and we are going to go ahead and we'll just do that. Now, under LAN ports, it wants to know what do we want our LAN IP addresses to be, right? So here, I don't want it to be 1.1 because there's a 1.1 sneaking around somewhere here in the lab. So we're going to call this, we're actually going to do 10. No, we're going to do 172.16.30.1, and we're going to leave it at a class C. Remember, this is a /24 because 24 bits are reserved for the network, right? We're going to enable the DHCP server, so we'll take a look at that once we get an IP. Now down here, we are going to change. We are not going to use the default Ubiquiti user. We're going to create a new admin user. We're going to call it whow. We're going to put in our super duper secret password. Now what we're going to do is we are going to hit apply. It's going to come up. It's going to tell us all of the configuration changes it's going to make. So I'm going to hit apply changes and then reboot. So now what's going to happen, and it's going to, are you sure? Yes, I'm absolutely sure. So now what's going to happen is the EdgeRouter is going to reboot. It's going to apply that configuration. So now we need to do two things. First of all, we need to plug ETH0 into our ISP so that it can get the DHCP address. The second thing I need to do is I need to plug my computer then into either ETH1 or ETH2 or ETH3 if I had, well, that's not configured yet. We're going to do that. But if I could use ETH3 as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to unplug my computer from ETH0. I'm going to move it over. Then we're going to take the static IP address off. And then I'm going to put a connection in ETH0 that's going to go to my ISP. So give me just a second and I'll show you that. Alright, so my other EdgeRouter 4 is acting as my ISP. So I now have a cable going from ETH0 to a port on at my ISP. And now I have my PC plugged into ETH1. So we're going to set the router back up out of the way. We're going to take the static IP address off. Come back in here. We're going to say obtain automatically. Okay, we've obtained a new IP address. You can't see it down here in the corner, but my computer is fat and happy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to 172.16.30.1. It's going to redirect us again. We're going to log in with that new password we created. It's going to come up. We're going to see on ETH0, we now have 192.168.66.158. Then on bridge 0, which is that bridge interface we created, it's 172.16.30.1. That's our LAN side. So from here, the basic setup is pretty much done, except I want to do a couple more things. We need to take this just a couple steps further. The first thing that I want to do is I want to go over to ubnt.com/download. We want to select EdgeMax. We want to find the EdgeRouter 4, EdgeRouter 6, 1.10.5 firmware, and we are going to download this guy. And we're going to download that. And it's going to ask us, it's about 83 megs, and so the download is actually, it's done already. So real quick, what we're going to do is we're going to come back in here. Now, before we upload that firmware, we'll take care of a few housekeeping items. We're going to click on System. I want to give the system a unique name, so we're going to call this H5 Basic ER4. Now, since it is DHCP, we're going to leave the gateway address blank. We're going to put howx5.com in there for the domain name. Now, system name server. This is important to be filled in, especially if the system itself needs to get out and talk to the internet to do different things. And you can see it's blank, but I always like to make sure that this is filled in. So we'll add 1.1.1.1, and we'll also add 8.8.8.8. And we're going to leave SSH because it's enabled only internally. I think that's all good. So we're going to go ahead and click Save. So it's going to take just a second, and you can see we're not even taxing the CPU. This thing's writing the changes, and it spiked to 12, and now CPU is almost down to 0 on the usage. So real quick, before we do the firmware upgrade, let's run a speed test. All right, so we are over at fast.com, which is the Netflix speed test. This thing is triple natted, and I have gamers in the house, so I'm not going to complain about 580 megabits. Plus, it's in the evening; it's prime time. I can live with this. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to upgrade that firmware, and you know what we could do real quick before we do that? We'll hit refresh on the test, and we'll go over here and we'll look at the CPU and the RAM on this router. CPU spiking up to 39, RAM at 9%. So, oh, look, I'm actually getting, I was getting over 2 gigabits when I flipped back over. So, yeah, I'm not upset about this. 47%, 9% RAM. So the performance would probably be a little bit better if we weren't in bridge mode, but we were hitting over a gigabit, which we've only got gigabit ports. So I don't know if we were hitting like an ingress on the network, but that's pretty amazing. So we are really, I think, going to have some fun here with private internet access. I can't wait to do that. That's the next video on this. So anyway, let's go over here. We're going to hit upload a system image. All right, so here is our ER-E300 firmware, so I'm going to select that. Yeah, I accidentally clicked on another file. I was trying to reorganize some things, and I accidentally clicked on a backup file. I didn't like that. So it's going to go ahead, it's going to upload this, and it's going to upgrade. We'll be right back, and we'll run that speed test again. Okay, it wants to let us know that in order for the changes to take effect, we need to reboot, so we will go ahead and say, yes, we are sure. So it'll take a couple minutes for the router to reboot. Then life will be good. We'll be on the latest version. That's all of the house cleaning that we really want to take care of at the moment. We're going to run that speed test here again, and then in the next video here we will look at the performance of PIA on the EdgeRouter 4 with a gigabit internet connection. Also, since we're waiting for this, if you have an internet connection of 200 megabits or more symmetrical, I want your help. What I want to do is I want to test various edge routers with IPsec. Since I've got gigabit symmetrical here, I want to work with you to create a site-to-site VPN, and I would like to do testing with the edge routers to see what kind of speeds we get across the IPsec tunnel. Now there will be a video on this, and there will be some acknowledgement and probably some swag involved. So if you are interested in helping me out with the IPsec site-to-site performance test with various edge routers, please go to h5llc.com down there, fill out the contact form, say that you saw this video and that you want to help create another video for everybody else to see so we can see what some of those IPsec tests look like. Even if you have 100 megabit symmetrical, I would like it to be higher than that, but we could even do 100 megabit symmetrical to start out all the way up to gigabit. So like I said, if you want to be part of a video, part of a test, reach out at h5llc.com and we will get something on the books. So let's see if our router is back up. That's awesome. All right, you can see we are on version 1.10.5. Let's go back over here. Let's rerun our test. I don't know that it's going to make a hill of beans worth a difference. Speed is climbing. and it says we are at 700 megabits per second. And what we'll do when we actually test PIA is we'll do this in a bridge, and then we'll unbridge the network and do the same thing, and then we'll also make it so that a certain VLAN accesses PIA, the whole network, things like that. We'll do fun things like take a single SSID on an access point and attribute it to PIA. I think that'll be pretty fun. We will also take a Synology box and put it on that network. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please comment and share. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to talk to us on Discord, the link's down there. Charlie's our admin. He is excellent, and I appreciate him. If you want to buy any of the gear that you see here on the channel, we do have that Amazon link down below. If you need IT consulting, whether it's networking, security, specifically wireless, programming, voice over IP, we run the whole gamut. You can go to h5llc.com down there and reach out. Somebody will get back with you as soon as possible. Once again, I do appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll see you in the next video.